lots of friendly faces. That always makes the evening easier. Oh, and a couple of red shirts. Hello, Ollie Island. Annie.
Look at that, she's wearing her shirt for the first time.
I'm an Ollie shirt virgin.
You're lucky you're still fit.
Today, I'm delighted.
This COVID thing, my shirt's got a bit tight.
Okay. I am going to hand over to Ali in a minute, but just so that everyone is aware, I'm going to mute you all, but Ali's going to ask if anyone's got any questions, so you can unmute yourself, but please put yourself back onto mute so we don't get any background noise. Ali's going to take you through, so if there's any mobile phones, anything like that, please make sure they don't interrupt the session for everyone else. And that's, we're recording the first bit. When we get on to question and answers at the end, we'll make sure that the recording is stopped. This tonight will be shared on YouTube in a couple of days, and you'll all get a copy of it. Anyone who's registered will get a copy of it as well. So there's still some people joining us. So over to you, Ali.
Hello. I'm figuring there's nothing on telly, or you lot are just really lovely. I can't make up my mind which. Escape to the Chateau's on. It's really good now because they're doing all that help other people to spend a lot of money and hurt themselves, which I find highly amusing. So what we're going to do tonight, we are still waiting for a few more, is we've had a few questions in, quite a few actually, which was lovely, but they're all over the place. And one of the themes of being an Ollie coach is, even if you were sat with us one-to-one, we'd never give you advice. We just don't do that because we can't, because we're not you. And, you know, I might be able to say, oh, I went through that. No, I didn't, because I'm not you and I can't possibly know. So even as therapists, we don't give advice. So we're not going to be doing that tonight directly. But what we're hopefully going to do is give you some really cool skills so that you can find your way and have a clearer head just to manage things. So I'm going to take the first, I think we've got about an hour and a half, unless anyone really does want to go and watch telly, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm going to take the first 45 minutes and I'm going to cover some of the questions that came in and hopefully give you a really cool technique that will help you all, because I'm a big one for, I don't think people need to be in therapy any longer than possible, and the whole approach from Ollie is that we teach you how so that you don't need to come and see us. And then I'm going to hand over to lovely Belinda, because we've got an awful lot of questions around foster and adoption, which I could have a stab at, but it's Belinda as one of our Ollie coaches, that's the thing. So I'm going to happily hand over and sit back and be very impressed. Yeah, she looks worried now. So while we're waiting, before Caroline tells us everyone's in that should be, does anyone have any specific questions that didn't email in, or anything that's really bothering them about anything really? Because Ollie coaches don't just work with kids, we work with the whole family, and pretty much we haven't had anything yet that we haven't been able to sort of say, well, you know, if you think about it this way. Just unmic yourself, Kathy, and then I can.
Might be helpful if I unmute myself.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I just had a question about the links between the work you do and the effect on kids, you know, in school academically. If you have any, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
It's just
a brilliant question.
any sort of feedback from teachers in schools about, you know, has it helped them concentrate better in class, or has it had any effect on their learning? Have they improved in any area, sort of thing?
Yeah. Yes and yes. One of the big things that we're really keen to do, we work as individual therapists, but we do work in schools, as obviously you heard. And the reason that we do was we were getting sent children that were already really struggling, and yes, we helped them and got them back in there. But I've got this thing that if we can get to them earlier, a lot earlier, and teach them emotional resilience, then they won't be getting into half the trouble that they are. So when we're working in schools with children, whether it's one-to-one, we do lots of group work, we teach teachers not to be therapists, they've got enough to blimmin' do, but to use the Ollie methodology and language so that the kids are getting one language rather than, oh, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And if you can get a child in a better place emotionally, make them more comfortable with themselves, whatever that might need to be, because you know, we get called in because of the child's behaviour, but we know that there's something going on beneath to create it. Yeah. And when we deal with that for them, or better still, when we show them how to deal with it, because we teach, then yeah, marked improvement. And everything we do in schools is measured. But one of the lovely things that we do, and in the beginning everyone went, no, you can't, was there's various measurables in schools and all sorts of organisations that are quite generic. How many times today did you feel sad? How many times did you know? And I thought, you know, one, I don't like the language. It's too grown up and it's too generic. So what we do is we have forms. The teacher fills one in, mum fills one in, and the child we're working with fills one in. And the teacher will have their own opinion of what's going on. Mum will have another opinion because it's often distant at home. And then the child will say what they think's going on. And we measure each week, literally, the differences. We get the child to do it, the teacher to do it. So we get 3 different measurables, but none of them are from us, because I think a lot, you know, there's open to what's really going on there when a therapist is doing it. And they're all showing great results. I think our biggest achievement, but it's not by far the only one, was a school not far from me that was called Beirut. And I thought, no school's that bad, but I walked in and ducked a chair, so yes, it really was. And they were about to exclude 12 kids because they tried everything. And they'd had a team of therapists in there for about 3 years, I think, every day. No measurables. And there needs to be, so that we know they're improving. The school know that we're doing a good job, but so the kid knows they're improving. And we managed to, in 6 sessions, which is 6 hours with each of those kids, that's it. 11 of them are back in the classroom. They're doing really well. The standard of all of their work has really gone up, even the stuff they were naturally struggling with for whatever reason, because they're not worried about getting it wrong now. They know there's no failure, any feedback, and if they've got it wrong, they can do better next time. And they're not worried about, you know, is it safe at home, what's going on. So I think emotional resilience really across the board with kids, it's just going to make them better human beings.
Yeah. Thank you. No, I agree. So I just wanted to hear your kind of take on it, but cool. What you've been doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jo has a question. She would like some advice regarding my children and the virus and my anxiety about going back to work and the virus. So
yeah, okay. The bulk of the questions that we got in this time were about the virus, about going back to work, and unfortunately a lot about redundancy and how to deal with it, because a lot of people haven't got jobs to go back to because employees either can't afford to, have had a rethink, and about, you know, how the children deal with it. In a nutshell, let's do children first, and then if anyone's got any real specifics on what's bothering their children, the rule of thumb with children is whatever you say and do, don't just go diving in there. I don't know if any of you were tuned in last time. This question kind of popped up at the end, and this lovely lady was worried because her child was really scared about wearing a mask, and my mum was like, just this COVID, she's terrified of going back to school, she's just terrified. And she went into this long spiel with her kid, who was only about 7 or 8, saying, you know, not everybody dies, and if you go into hospital now, you know, we've got enough ventilators. 7 or 8. And she went on and on and on, and explained it beautifully. I mean, she did a lovely job, but the kid was still very upset. So mum brought it to me to see if I could make any difference, and no, mum's going to do the best job by far. But I did a very simple thing. Rather than just go into my take on COVID and what might be worrying me, I asked her what was worrying her, because nobody had. Do you know what it was? She didn't want to wear a blue mask, she wanted a pink one. Seriously, that's what it was. The little ones, they're so nominal in thought, they're so black and white. Very rarely is it anything too deep. But the key is, ask before you go into a spiel. Ask what they know, and then ask what they want to know, because they might say, well, people die, and then say, and what is it about that? 2 key words. We drum it into our therapist. What, how, what, how, what, how, what, how. Because it makes them and you have to go back inside and think. But it allows them to communicate better and tell you exactly what the problem is before you go off at a tangent. And they weren't really worried about grandma dying, but they are now because you've just mentioned it. So, and keep it age appropriate. So everyone says, you know, my child's 7, how should I speak to them? I can't tell you because I haven't met your child. You know your kids. Are they, you know, do they need detail? Are they very detailed and very intense? If they are, give them it. If they just want to know it's going to be all right, that's all they need to know. But ask them, don't tell them, ask them. Does that help? I can't see the picture of her asked me that question, so I'll take that as a yes. Any more? I'm going to move on to work and redundancy in a second. I can't see and Chip's not yelling at me, so with your permission, I'm going to try something with IT, which never goes well for me. But let's see. No, it's not going to. Trying. It's not up. Where would I find it even? No, that's not. You're not going to help me. Okay, well, my lovely assistant's going to give me some technical support. The questions that, I mean, we got a range this time, which was lovely, so thank you. But what we focused on are the main ones, and it was about COVID with the kids and what to tell them. I can't tell you. All I can do is tell you, make it age appropriate, and what, how. Ask them what they know before you go diving in, seriously. You can save yourself and them a lot of heartache. But the other question was about going back to work yourself. We've been locked in at one level or another, depending on your personal situation, for 5 months now, quite a while. And it's really, really tough. Hang on a second, I'm just going to show you. And some people are finding it really hard to go back out there. I mean, even to go to the shops is quite scary. And we all know that that's got a lot to do with the government and the news that we're hearing and how they're presenting everything. And I don't know what the answers are. I'm not a scientist. But the rule of thumb, when I am asked, is, look, all you can do is take care of you and do what's right for you and your family. And you can't control anybody else. You can only control your environment. So you can only really focus in on that. So if you are having to go back to work and you haven't been there yet, I can imagine there's a myriad of problems. So if I can just reel off some of the ones that were sent in, it was, I don't think my company are taking this seriously. They haven't given us the 2 meters. My boss has changed my working hours. He's changed this, that, and the other. I'm on a 4-day week. I don't know if I'm going to have a job at the end of it. And way too many, I've been made redundant. So people have been on furlough and they've gone to go back and no job. Well, that could be a whole subject on its own, to be honest, because, you know, people think, oh, you've been made redundant, you've lost your job. But it's so much more than that, because it's about your identity. It's about so much more. And to the point where we probably have to do one just on that. But what I want to do now, Chip's put me back online, is I want to give you an overview, really, because if you email me, if you've got a definite issue, email me, and I promise me or one of my coaches will get back to you and help you with it. But because of the depth and width of the questions we've had, I'm just going to give you an overview that I hope will help you. Yeah, sorry about this, it's not my strength. You've probably all seen this a million times, yeah? This control thing. The bottom line is, and the reason that I wanted to take this approach tonight is, no matter what your question was, whether it's about going back to work, whether it's about how to talk to your child, whether it's about have you got a job, can you find a job, whatever it's about, whatever's bothering you at the moment, whatever's making you anxious at the moment, my take on it is empowering people. So if you can understand why it's causing you so much trouble, then you can do something about it. And as simplistic as it might sound, the bottom line is anything that isn't bothering you right now isn't bothering you because you're in control of it. So you're probably not worried about work if you know you've got a job and everything's the same and nothing's changed. You're probably not worried about going back to work if you know exactly what's coming, your boss is a good person, they're taking care of you. So if you know what's happening and you're in control, you'll be in a good place. But it's when you're not. And it's not just now, though now's highlighted it, but as therapists, when somebody comes to see us, as I said, we don't give advice. We just sit and listen and we ask questions to get you to think about it in a different way, look at it a different perspective. And the bottom line is the things that make us feel unsafe is change and uncertainty. We're just rubbish at it. We're such creatures of habit. How many of you have the same thing for breakfast every morning? How many of you have the same meal on a Friday night? How many of you do the same thing at a certain time during the week? Because that's what you do. That's what you do. I know we go camping and we can be anywhere in the world, but within about a day, we've sunk into a routine of tent up, have dinner, glass of wine before dinner. We just sink into routines. And once we've got a routine and we know what's going to go on and we know what's happening, we're fine. But when we pull up to the campsite, if I don't know where the toilets are or the showers, I get anxious. But the moment I know, that's it, I can settle. We need to know what's going on. And the problem is that when we don't know what's going on, our brains do this really awkward damn thing. Our brains have to make sense of everything. They just have to. And if there's any information missing, they create it. And our brains create it through our imagination. Well, where does our imagination get that information from? It'll get it from past experiences of things that probably didn't go so well for you. So it's a very lovely saying, and it's very, very true, that your imagination is going to create and fill in the gaps and create something absolutely 10 times more terrifying than the reality of the situation. But our brain has to fill in the gaps if there are gaps. So wouldn't it be lovely if we could just fill in those gaps ourselves? And the other thing is, we have turned into robots. 80% of the time, our subconscious is in charge. We're not. And what do I mean by that? I mean that it's a safety mechanism we have, that we learn something, and once we've learnt it, that's it. We don't need to learn it again. So classic things like don't put your hand in the fire, you'll burn yourself. We learn it and hopefully you don't do it again. But if you think about today, how many times today did you actually have to think about what you're doing? Did you have to think about getting dressed? Does your shirt go on over your bra or vice versa? Sorry if we've got any lads on, but you know, who knows? Tea, coffee, how do you make it? What is tea, coffee? Let's take it right back. How do I walk? Which muscles do I need to walk? 80% of what we do every day, we're not in control of. We're just doing it. We're doing it subconsciously. And that other 20% is actually when we're dangerous, because that's when we start thinking about stuff. And that causes all sorts of grief, because until we've learned to do something and it's filed in our library in Ollie's world, and it's part of that 80%, it's a bit all over the place. Think back to when you were learning to walk. Many, many times you fell over before you actually mastered walking. At the point you mastered walking, it slipped into your subconscious and became part of that 80%. But until then, you weren't very good at it. So if something new comes along or something we don't know, it's not in that 80%. It's not something we know what to do with. So we've got to create it. And that's where our brain does this really awful thing. It never creates anything nice. Have you noticed that? If something's happening like COVID, like is it safe to go to work, your brain very, very rarely, unless you're in a very good place, and if you are, I love you for it, will say, oh, do you know, it will be fantastic. Don't worry about it. There's not a thing in the world to worry about. It doesn't, does it? And the reason it doesn't is because it's always looking to protect you. It's always looking to make sure that you're going to be okay. So just think about this right now. If this was one of your issues, are you going to get sick? Are you going to be able to find another job? Will you still have a job? For those of you that affects, how do you feel? Because it's scary. We're talking about a job. So what does that actually mean? If you haven't got a job, what does it actually mean? Can you pay the bills? Can you afford this? Can you do that? It's really, really frightening, because not having a job is one thing, but it's what that means and the uncertainty that that brings that really, really frightens you. And if you've got any self-doubt in yourself about your skills or capabilities, and we all have, then, oh my God, can I get another job? Will anyone ever employ me? Am I too old? Am I intelligent enough? And off you go. I talked before about your bodyguard, but I'm going to go over it again because we've got some new people with us tonight, because stress and anxiety is a major, major problem. And it's the reason that anyone's struggling right now, because if you weren't stressed and you weren't anxious, then nothing that the world threw at you right now would be a problem. You just deal with it. You just get on with it and go, hey ho, and you'd move through it. So what we're going to do now very briefly, for those that weren't on the last one, is talk about what I call your bodyguard, because it's so, so important. And I don't care if I say this 50 million times, because if it gets through, it'll make so much difference. All of you know about your 5 senses: smell, taste, touch, and the others, sight, hearing. But we have a 6th sense. And some of you will be more aware of it than others. You know, you can walk into a room and you suddenly go, ooh, I don't know, something's not right. Or you meet someone and you don't know why, but you don't feel quite comfortable around them. We do that as adults. But did you know that that 6th sense is incredibly strong in children? And there's a damn good reason for it. When they're born, they're helpless, absolutely helpless. They look to you to protect them, guide them, to teach them how the world works until they're old enough to not need you anymore, teenagers, they throw it back at you and run. But in the beginning, they're looking to you. But they don't understand the world. So they use a very, very basic but also powerful thing called their 6th sense. Many, many parents have been amazing through COVID, and I've seen them in front of their kids, telling their kids it's all going to be all right and don't worry. And they've done an amazing job. The mask, their face mask, not the masks, it's been fine, you'll be fine. But children pick up. They have a 6th sense, and they can pick up that mummy's saying one thing, you'll be fine. But they're picking up that she's actually feeling something else. Now, they won't know what that is, but it's enough that they know mummy's not comfortable or mummy doesn't feel safe. And if mummy doesn't feel safe, they're in real trouble, because mummy's their protector. So this 6th sense is all about protecting you. And from your first breath, it literally has been protecting you. Now, people call it stress, they call it anxiety. I call it your bodyguard, because if you imagine your 6th sense just looping around you from your very, very first breath, and what it does, it knows everything that's in your, we call library in the Ollie world, and all the memories and all your experiences in all the boxes in your library. And it knows everything that's ever frightened you or made you feel afraid. And its job is to warn you if you're near anything that could frighten you or cause you harm. So when you feel anxious, it's because your 6th sense is aware of something you haven't noticed yet. And it's a little bit concerned that, you know, this isn't good. We need to move. We need to get out of here. And the way that it does it is by creating the fight or flight response, which is all of the things that you feel in your body. And again, I know we've got some new people. This really, really helps children, so I'm going to go over it again. A lot of kids are terrified that they get trouble breathing and their heart goes too fast when they're a bit stressed, because they don't understand why, especially with damn COVID at the moment. What are the symptoms? You can't breathe and you're sweating up. It's a lovely way to explain to children what's going on, that feeling of anxiety is their bodyguard. and that he's just going round and round, and he's noticed something that before now in the past has either hurt them or frightened them. And he doesn't want you to be near that, but he's only little because he lives in your head. So he can't leap out and protect you. So what he does is he tries to warn you, and he does that by making your tummy feel funny. That feeling is actually the blood leaving your stomach to go into your arms and legs, so that if need be, you can run away or fight whatever the problem is. And then what he does, if you don't listen and he's made your tummy all wobbly, he might make you all sweaty. Well, that's actually a physical response so that you're warming up, ready to run or fight. And it's also because your heartbeat's pumping faster and the blood's nearer the surface. And you know, sometimes you get that feeling where your heart's going really, 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 really fast. Well, that's just that big muscle pumping the blood around. So if you need to get away, you can run and you get breathless. You're not really breathless, you're just breathing heavier to take more oxygen on. So many people are terrified of the fight or flight, the things that happen to you during fight or flight, because it really is. I was unfortunate enough to have to go into our local hospital for a chest x-ray. And while I was lying there, I had all these people coming in with suspected COVID, and they were reeling off the symptoms, temperature going through the roof, hot sweats, breathing difficulties, and most of them were just anxious out of their trees. It wasn't COVID, thank the Lord. But there's a lot of that at the moment, and children are watching TV, whether you're aware they are or not. They've all got iPads and Christ knows what. They're listening to you guys, they're hearing snippets, so it's good just to talk them through it and just always be honest. You know, if they're worried about these feelings that they're having, just explain it. It's just your bodyguard trying to warn you something's wrong. But the lovely thing about the bodyguard is he doesn't know how grown up you are. He still thinks you're a baby. So all you really need to do when your bodyguard starts making all those things happen inside you is just go, it's all right, I'm at least 7 now, or 8 or 9 or 52, it doesn't matter. It's the truth, your bodyguard doesn't know how old you are. And you can calm it down. What you're actually doing is interrupting the pattern. Why would you want to do that? Because if you get too anxious, the last thing that happens as part of the chemical response, blood leaves the part of your brain that lets you think clearly. All the way back to where we started. You're out of control when you don't know what to do. Something's changed, something's different, and then you can't think clearly. So what we need to do is make sure that doesn't happen. So whatever your fears and concerns are right now, because you've all got them, you have got these two choices. And you know what? Whichever one works for you, go for it. Because it really is a personal thing. But I have not yet, in all my years of therapy, ever met anyone that sat down in front of me and said, do you know how I got through that? I got really stressed and panic and anxious. It made me think I was fine. I've never heard it. Anxiety has never really helped anybody. Low-level anxiety, I think, does, because I think it keeps you on your toes and makes you a little bit alert. But full anxiety, absolutely not. So it's not an emotion that you need when you're trying to work out what you need to do next. And this is a very true thing. Most of the time, we don't actually know what we're fearful of. But the truth is, we're afraid of the unknown. If we know what's coming, if we know what's going to happen, we might be a little bit fearful. That's normal, that's human. But we can deal with it. We can operate, we can deal with it. It's when we don't know. And I think half the problem at the moment is nobody bloody knows. And you don't feel safe with the decisions that are being making, or maybe that's just me. But it is about the fear of the unknown. So your options are, you can either let that fear take over, whatever your issue is, or you can do something about it. And this is a very easy thing to say, isn't it? You know, whatever's really worrying you out there at the moment, all the questions that you've got, and please email them in. Get back in control, have routines and have a plan, you'll be fine. Damn easy to say, isn't it? But what if you can't think straight? What if you really just don't know what to do? What if? You see, I have a theory that And any of you that know about Ollie and his superpowers, you know that I have a real problem with boxes and labels, and that I 100% believe that everything that you think or feel is a part of you, not who you are. Everything you think and feel is a part of you, not who you are. And I explain it that I'm the captain of my ship, the good ship Allie. Well, it's more like an ocean liner these days, thanks to COVID, but we'll get it back down to a streamlined yacht at some point. But again, it's a lovely way to explain it to kids. You could be a bus, you could be anything, but you're the captain. You could be a football team, a hockey team, but you're the captain. And your crew or your team are every emotion you can think of. And it's a lovely way to explain it to children, because they'll say, well, I don't want grumpy or sad or angry in my team. I'll kick them out. I don't want scared. They're rubbish. And it's a lovely way to explain why we have them all, and that you need that balance. And a standard one I always say, if you only had brave, you'd rush across the road without looking. You need scared to go, oi, brave, look left and right. But every single thing that we feel, every emotion is a part of us, not who we are. I'm going to say it again, because if you are in that bracket of being a bit stressed out at the moment, that feeling is a part of you, not who you are. It's hijacked you. But it's hijacked you because it's going, can't cope. It can't. That part of you can't. But look at that. That part of you. Like my finger. That leaves the rest of me that could, if I got that part of me to just move over for a minute. So I want to do something really, really quickly that you can take part in or not. But you got pen and paper in front of you, draw this. If not, it doesn't matter. You can work through with me. What I want you all to do is I want you to think, I've called it a goal. I want you to think about whatever is bothering you at the moment, wherever you're at in your world, in your life, whether it's looking for a new job, changing partners, I don't care, whatever it is. Wherever you're at, I want you to think about where you would like to be. Just think about a goal. And that really can be, just get through this year. It can be, find another job. It can be, sign up for a really wonderful training course. It can be absolutely anything. Think of a goal that you would like to set for you. And as I know I've got mainly mums on here, I've probably got lots of mums, sorry, mainly females, probably got lots of mums. If that goal involves your family, so be it, because this is about you, what matters to you. So set a goal. So one of my goals is, well, we put Ollie online. I want to put more courses out there and help people, because I think now more than ever, that's what we all should be doing as therapists, just teaching as much as we can to give you the support you need. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about a version of you that has achieved that goal. Just allow your imagination to do that. I mean, come on, you let your imagination put you through hell. So let's make it do something lovely for 10 minutes, all right? Something you would really, really love to achieve. And what I want you to do is, however you would do this, just imagine we jumped into the future, into that you that has achieved whatever that goal is. So now I want you to imagine that you're looking at the you that has achieved that goal, and just notice whatever you notice about them. Are you standing taller? Do you look less stressed? What's changed? Just notice. Allow yourself to. You know, dreams are only dreams till you make them happen. Just dare. Allow yourself to imagine that version of you that's achieved the goal. And then I'm just going to ask you some questions about that. When you look at yourself, this you that's achieved the goal, I want to talk about your identity. How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about yourself now you've achieved that goal? Just really allow yourself to feel it. In fact, stop looking at yourself, step into that version of you. However you do it, just step in, feel it. How does it feel to be that you that's achieved that goal? Really allow yourself to feel it. And then I want you, while you're inside that you that's achieved your goal and feeling whatever you're feeling, to just think about what you believe to be true about you now, right now, that you've achieved that goal. What would you believe that you don't believe right now that you believe because you've achieved that goal? How would that be? I'm good enough, I'm strong enough, did it? I don't know, it doesn't matter. So now we've got that you that's achieved the goal, and it's probably a whole new identity because you did it, who believes I don't know what about themselves now. I wonder what new skills you've got, or skills that you've recognized you had that have helped you achieve that goal that maybe you've overlooked till now, but they've helped you achieve that goal. And I wonder how it's changing your behavior. What's different, what you're doing differently because you've achieved that goal. You believe something different about yourself. You've got new skills, new identity because you did it. Wonder how that's changing your behavior. What people are noticing about that change in your behavior. And then finally, this you that's achieved their goals, that's aware of this identity of I did it, has wonderful new beliefs about themselves, recognizing these skills that they've used to get there because they've got these skills, noticing how it's changed their behavior. How's it changing your world? What difference is making all the difference in your world? For your family, your loved ones, your friends? How would you achieving that goal change your environment, your world, your family, your home, your friends? So I'm curious, if we were to start at the bottom of my pyramid, because we've just started at the top, and this is my favorite way to goal set. So many people go, right, my first step's got to be, don't do that. Go there, go to the goal, see it, feel it, hear it, experience it, look back. Who do you need to be for that to be true? What would you need to believe about yourself that you didn't believe before to make that true? What skills and capabilities have you got to make that true? What might you need to add to it? How would you need to change your behavior, or how would it change your behavior to make that true? And what would need to change in your environment to allow you to make that true? Then you have your steps. And I don't care if that's to change careers, change husbands, partners, or how to negotiate through now, whatever that might mean for you. I use this all the time. Whatever's bothering me, I look at this and I start at the end. What would I like the outcome be of this problem? And I put that in goal. And then I visualize myself there. I allow myself to really feel it, see it, believe that I'm there. And then I ask myself, my identity, who would I be if I'd done that? What would I believe about myself that I maybe don't believe right now once I've done that? How did I use my skills? What new skills? How's my behavior changed? What am I doing differently because I've done that? And how's it affecting my world? And what it does is it puts a sat nav. I believe we all have sat navs in here. You know, people say, be careful what you wish for. I completely believe that. But I also believe the saying, if you keep going in that direction, you'll end up where you're heading. It's a nice one, isn't it? This is a really useful one. And with most of my clients, I will start with this because I can't tell you how to bring your kids up. I'm not you. I can't tell you how to deal with a sister-in-law or work colleague. I'm not you. But what I can do is give you the tools for you to stand back and look at it so that you can see how to do it, because I truly believe that you can. So do we have any questions on that one?
I don't think there's a question on that one, but I have a question on something else. So when you're back in afterwards, I can do that, yeah?
Yep. So do you want a break for 10, Chip?
No, I'll ask the question then.
Oh, go on then.
Okay, so one of our people have a child who they're moving schools, a 7-year-old, and they're just waiting to hear whether they've got a place at this new school. And the reason they're moving schools is because the school isn't meeting their child's needs at the moment. But they know their daughter, their 7-year-old, will be devastated and scream and shout and go, she doesn't want to move. So how do they deal with that?
Well, my first question would be, how do you know that? And then what you need to do is, it's a bit like the pink mask, blue mask thing. It's very easy for us to presume, especially, we know our kids, and we do, that they will hate it because they don't like change. They don't like this, they don't like that, but you don't know what the real problem is. So again, how? Just ask the questions. What is it about this new school? How do you know that you're not going to like it? Because by asking those questions, it sounds so simplistic, but I can't tell you how powerful it is. By asking those questions, young or old, have got to, rather than just go, change, scared and freak, they've actually got to think about what it is. And that means you're actually chunking it down. So rather than this change school big thing, too big, how questions will allow you to chunk it down with your child to really understand what it is. And it might be, well, my best friend's not going to be there. No, she won't, but you can still see her in the evening. So my first point of call would be to be really sure of, you have a belief that this is going to be the case. Your kid, I'm sure you're right. But really chunk down and ask what it is. There's a classic where this young lass had to change schools because mum and dad split up. And mum was convinced that she was freaking out because mum and dad had split up. But when I actually sat down and how, yeah, she was upset mum and dad had split up and she wasn't keen on a new school. Who likes change and leaving your friends? But the real problem was there was no hockey team. And at the last school, she'd made it into the hockey team. First time she'd ever been accepted and felt valued. So it's easier for a therapist to do this and stand back because mum's kind of protective and your kid, but ask them how. Know what you're dealing with rather than just dive in. And by doing that, you can chunk it down into little things that you probably can deal with better. But we've got other Ollie coaches on here. Anyone else have an opinion on that? No?
Might be worth asking what does the child think might be good about a new school, and they're coming up with their own ideas then at what possibilities there might be.
Yeah, that's a very good point. In therapy, what we find is people, I call it getting lost in their story, and they get trapped in a belief and that's all they know. And we spend a lot of time breaking them out of that by reframing it. So that's, as Sonia just said, that's a classic, rather than looking at what's bad about it, what could be good about it. And she'll kick against it if she doesn't want to go. But what you're doing is you're actually getting her to consider the possibilities.
Could you also ask them what they didn't like about the current school?
I don't see why not. And again, without knowing the child and the specifics, absolutely. But, sometimes the child doesn't realise that the school's not meeting the needs. It takes mum to notice that the kid's not getting the support they need. But, the child might actually think, well, no, I was, because they might be behaving completely different in class. And that happens a lot. I get kids where they're behaving perfectly different in class. When they come home, they have meltdowns because they've had to control it all day or whatever. So mum's made a decision. Mum knows what she's doing. She's made a decision based on sound things. But again, I think if kids, I've just spent the last half hour saying if we understand something, then we can deal with it. So I think it's about explaining stuff and making it age appropriate. So, so the school weren't providing enough on it's not going to do it. You need to be a little bit more gentle with that. But as I said, if if anyone's got any specifics like that, please email in, and then we can give you a little bit more help, because you can tell us a little bit more about your individual child or problem.
I think we've got another one here. So this is from Joe. So I don't know if Joe wants to unmute herself and actually tell us about it, rather than me read it. Oh, here she is.
Hi, Joe.
Hi. Yeah, so it started off with my 6-year-old. She was very worried about the virus, and all she really knew was that there was a virus and that we were staying at home. So because I've suffered from anxiety with this, I didn't have news on. If my husband watched the news, he'd be in the other room. So they haven't heard anything, because I've always been in the other room with them. So I know that they've not heard anything, and we don't discuss it in front of them. And of course, they don't know like the ins and outs of it. So she started a while, and she was very worried and very clingy. And so I was reassuring her, telling her she's okay. Don't go into much details, just that, you know, she's okay, so she doesn't need to worry. And eventually she sort of chilled and started relaxing. But my son, who's 5, has recently suddenly started to go, Mummy, is it all right? I've just touched my nose, or is it all right? I've just touched the chair. And it's constant throughout the day. I don't know why it started. He's just said he's worried about the virus, and I've asked him why, and he just says he doesn't know, he just is. And I've explained to him that it's okay, children don't really necessarily get poorly with it. And I've explained about, you know, because he's sort of really obsessed with it. It's everything. It could be anything he touches. It's anything on him or anything around the house. It's just constant. And I'm saying to him, you know, we have, you know, I wash my hands a lot. I said, but it's hygiene. You know, we also have hygiene where if we go to the toilet, we've got to wash our hands, you know, and anything that comes in the house, I actually clean, because I've got the anxiety. I'm not doing it obsessively. So it's, you know, rubbing. Are you? Well, you know, if it's post, I open it and I throw things away. If it's parcel from, say, Amazon, I take it out of the box and then I empty back with a wipe. And if it's my food shopping, I wash it. I wash everything and then I put it away. And so he's not touching anything. So he's not actually touching anything that comes in the house. He knows he doesn't. But I don't know how to get him out of this.
Okay. Well, first off, he's worked out that touching's bad, and it may be, you know, they don't miss a bloody trick. So the routine's changed at home. You're washing stuff. You're probably washing your hands a bit more. Yeah. Washing food when it comes into the house. You know, none of us have ever done that before. But you know what? I do that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
No, and I think a lot of us do. And you know, they're telling us how long it can stay live, and I don't know what's right and what's wrong. But me and my family, I'm going to make my own bloody choices. Everything that comes to my house gets washed. In fact, it doesn't come out of the shopping bag for 72 hours, yeah? So that's fine, mate. You're protecting your own, and I think that's the right and sensible thing to do. So, but, do you know, a lovely thing to do, and again, without knowing your little chap, I don't know. So if this really is a problem, please get in contact with me away from here, and we can have a private talk. I can get to understand a bit more, and I can help you. Lovely. But a lovely thing to do is, back to what I said, we get anxious and we get nervous and we get jumpy when we're not in control and we don't understand. Involve him. So, you know, my niece is doing this with her sons. He's autistic, so he's very, at the moment. And she involves him. The shopping's home. Come on, boys, new routine. I've got to wash the car and you can help me. Da 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 da. And just makes it fun. But the more natural, she's brilliant actually, because she just makes it fun. They have music on all the time. He's autistic, he loves it. And the more fun and natural she is about it, it then becomes something that they just naturally do. So she doesn't go, oh, got to clean. It's da 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 da. Yeah. Remember what I said about the 80%? Very quickly, it becomes routine, and then you're going to have a problem with your little one when you don't do it, and he's going to go, well. But email me directly if that, you know.
Yeah, please. How do I get your email directly?
I tell you it now if anyone wants it.
Yeah, I'm just going to get a pen. Hang on a second.
I'm going to give you mine. I don't know where you guys are in the country, but if you're nearer to one of Miley coaches, I will pass you over to them.
I'm back. Thank you.
I'm going to give you my email,
Yeah,
so everybody can have the email. But as I've just said, if I don't know where you are in the country, so if you let me know when you email me, and if you're near one of the Ollie coaches, I'll put you in touch with them, because I trust them all with my family, and if they're closer to you, that's a lot easier. Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
So it's Ali, ALI.
Yeah. Is it all lowercase?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At Subconquest, SUBCONQUEST. You right? Nope, we seem to have lost Joe. We'll make sure you got it. Subconquest.co.uk. But the email will come out from us anyway, so just send it back to that. Should be fine.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Can I add something extra there?
Please do. Chime in, guys.
I have a 5-year-old girl, and she has a sixth sense for when you're telling white lies. So her questions will continue because she's not entirely convinced that she has the answer. What I've done with coronavirus, and my own personal background, I'm a medicinal chemist, so I work with medicines. What I did was I found a picture of a virus, of what an actual virus looks like, and I put it on a screen, and we drew one out together, and I invited her then, okay, do you think it looks scary? And she was like, no, it looks like a blob. And I was like, okay. And then I explained to her about good bacteria and bad bacteria and how they were invisible as well, and that our good bacteria protects us, and we have like invisible superpowers in our tummy. So she believed that. And I also explained a little bit about how our hand washing makes the virus dissolve into a proper blob and disappear. And she absolutely lapped that one up and loved it, and it made it like she didn't ask any more questions after that.
I have to say that's brilliant, and one of the things that I will add to that, and then we're going to let you have a 5-minute break, because I desperately want to hand over to Belinda, because I know we've had lots of questions about foster and adoption, but you can email in, is I'm saying talk to them at their level, age appropriate, but you know what, you know your kid, if they love drawing in pictures, as Sonia's just said, draw what you can, explain.
I did the ground pepper in water, and I did it with when I hadn't washed my hands, and I stuck my finger in, and obviously I got pepper, and then we washed our hands, and then I got him to do it.
Oh, and that's clever.
He liked that.
That is clever. We're going to pitch that one and add it to Ollie. I'm sorry.
It's really good. Yeah, it does work. It's a good one, because it does. As soon as when you've washed your hands, even I did it with hand soap, and then I did it with the hand sanitizer gel, and both times you put your finger in and the pepper just disperses.
I love that. And again, if we don't have time tonight, but please email in. I'll put you in touch with one of our Ollie coaches. I'll talk you through it. We all learn a different way. Yeah. So if you want to teach me something, I'm very kinesthetic. I have to touch it, feel it. But if you've got a very visual person, that's going to be an amazing thing to. So we're going to break for 5 minutes. I'm going to stay on if you've got any more questions. So just let you go to the toilet, grab a coffee, whatever. And I'm going to hand over to Belinda, who is just amazing at what she does with foster and adoption. And you know, the questions that we got fired in for that and the stuff she's talking about, I don't think it's just about foster and adoption. So I think there's a lot to learn for all of us there. So if you want a 5-minute break, so I don't know what time it is because I can't see with my screen so full, but if we're back in 5, I'll see you shortly, guys. I will still be here if you've got any questions.
I think you've answered all the questions that were posted on the chat. So that's good. So if anyone else has questions they want to post, please do. Or, you know, you can continue to ask questions or ask things of Ellie now while we're sitting here, or anyone else, Sonia, or anyone else who's around still for this 5 minutes. There's no problem.
Everyone that's on here that's got a red shirt is an Ollie coach, but I'm really proud as punch to see that we've got a lot of Ollie students on here too. Welcome, guys. They've just joined our ranks and will have a red shirt soon. So save the world with us. We need more of you. So if there's no questions, and there are 2 Ollie coaches still on who are very capable, Sonia and Belinda. I'm just going to, for 2 seconds.
Sonia, was it the article in about you in that I shared earlier this week?
On the Life Labs?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
That's great. It was a great article.
Thank you very much.
How did that come about?
I have always really loved writing, and actually training as an Ollie coach has helped me kind of address my own confidence issues and self-belief issues, because I would have doubted that nobody wants to read what I have to say, and in challenging my own beliefs, I just sat down and applied myself, and I said, you know what, look, if it's terrible, nobody will read it, or I'll get feedback that it needs to be tweaked. Or I know Caroline and Ali are very kind when it comes to feedback, that they deliver it in a really nice way, so that if it really was terrible, they would have told me.
No, we wouldn't.
But I also wanted to share I also wanted to share a personal experience of how there's more than fight or flight, and I have experienced the freeze response on a number of occasions, where overwhelm takes over, and like, apart from the day-to-day functions of feeding yourself, feeding your child, there's not much else you can do because it just feels like too much. And I just wanted to speak a little bit into that, and normalize it for people. So I hope it did that. And thank you, Sarah, for your kind words.
Are we all back, Chip?
Hi, sorry, Sonia, can I just ask, I didn't catch what you wrote. Was it an article I can read or something?
Yes, it's on the Ollie and His Superpowers Life Labs channel on psychologies.co.uk. And there's loads of wonderful articles from the various Ollie coach and student contributors there, into a variety and a huge array of different kind of personal experiences. So there's definitely something to tickle everyone's fancy there.
Yeah. Where are you from yourself?
Sorry?
Where are you from?
I'm from Ireland.
Yeah. I was just wondering where you're from.
We have 2 Irish accents there. I can hear them. Yeah.
I think we're in Ireland,
Yeah,
is the thing.
Are you in Ireland as well, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm in Belfast. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Brilliant. I'm in Cork.
Oh, Cork, lovely.
Just before lockdown, Kathy, I was due to come out there. We've got obviously we've got Sonia, we've got a couple of Irish coaches in Northern Ireland, and they'd arranged for us to do a visit to loads of schools and parents. And I said, "Oh, got blown out of the water." So as soon as we can, I'm coming over, which will be.
I read in the online there was an article from somebody in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, that would be Avril. She was in one of the health newspapers, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that was really good.
Oh, cool. Good. So, Belinda, are you happy to take the wheel?
Yes, about as happy as I'm going to be, I think, Ali.
I'm going to hand over to lovely Belinda. She's one of our Ollie coaches, and as I said, her speciality is foster and adoption. But I love listening to her because I learn a lot about how to work with kids. Because if you can work with kids that are going through what foster and adoption kids can, you can work with any kids. So all yours, Belinda.
Thank you very much. Okay, so hi everybody. So I'm Belinda, I'm an Ollie coach, as you can hear, very proud Ollie coach. I was a teacher for almost 20 years in primary schools, which is probably where I've got most of my experience. I've been a foster carer for about 9 years, Ollie coach as well, and a parent. So I have 2 children who have grown up, and recently a granddaughter too. So kids are my life really, whether they're sort of 4 months or 14 or 18. But as Ali said earlier, much of what I'm going to talk about today, although it is a bias and will be more exaggerated in fostered or adopted children, it applies to every child and any family. So what I want to do first of all is to show you a very, very short video which hopefully will explain how children's brains develop and why they get put on the path to become the person that they are. Because if we can understand that, we can start to understand how to work with children. So I'm going to share my screen if it's okay with you. It might take me a moment. I'm about as technically adept as Ali, I think. Not very. So, right, I'm screen sharing at the moment, so let me get this video up for you. Okay, so this is just a couple of minutes, this video. So they really apply to any child. So let's have a look at some of the common problems. Well, the first one is that parenting itself is really difficult. And actually, with foster children or adopted children, you're not parenting them, you're re-parenting them, because they've been parented in a way that obviously wasn't perhaps quite good enough. And so they're left with a lot of problems, and we then have to start again. And some people who maybe get parenting wrong the first time round may want to try re-parenting in a different way. But when you have to reparent a child who's maybe 8, going back to some of the basics that they might not have learned when they were 1, 2 or 3 can be quite challenging. And when children come into care, some of the things that have happened to them have left them really lacking in trust, if you like. They don't have trust. They haven't been looked after properly. They've been let down. They may have been neglected or abused. And so it's very hard for them to trust people. And you have to be able to trust people to learn. They also come into care with lots of past events and memories. Ali was talking earlier about how our memories are stored and how they affect us. And they will have memories and associations, really, that will become triggers for them. So everything that's happened to them in their past, and it could be any trigger, and you won't know the trigger unless they will share it with you. If it's your own child, you probably might have a good idea because you've been there with them throughout their life. But if it's a fostered or adopted child, you won't know what the trigger is. So if they share it, that's great. If you work it out, that's great. But otherwise, it's very, very difficult. And it's extra difficult around times where maybe children have to have contact with their birth parents or their birth families. That will happen more in foster, I think, these days than adoption. But that can be a very trying time for a child. And what we have to understand is that these children have had very poor role models. And children learn by copying, don't they? So as parents, we really need to be a good role model for them. And if they haven't had good role models, then it's very, very confusing for them if they come into a house where now you're trying to be a good role model. And we all know we have to be fair and consistent and mean what we say. And deliver, I suppose, consequences that fit the crime that's been committed. But if children get used to maybe parents not being so good at that, or giving in to them, saying yes. I mean, we've all done it, haven't we? Sometimes we think, oh, I'll do it for an easier life. But it never is easier, and we probably all know that too. Because if we don't stick to our guns and make sure we mean what we say, then the child is learning that they can get their own way, that they actually can try and get what they want, and you will give in. So we don't want them to learn that. We have to really be able to give them that role model and help them to move on. They come into care with a lot of issues around separation and loss. And that's grief, really, isn't it? So fostered or adopted children obviously have left everything behind. They've left their parents, their birth parents, their families, their friends, sometimes their schools. But it's a lot to lose, but it's no different than any other form of grief. So if a child is feeling grief, they are going through separation and loss. But foster children especially will feel maybe that they don't belong, that they're unwanted. And, you know, as it happens in any family as well, we all know that the cycle of grief really happens. And we've seen an example of it recently, haven't we? Have your children been grieving the fact that they've not been able to see their friends since COVID started, school finished? They've not been able to see their teachers. You may not know, but they have been grieving. It is separation and it is loss. And they might have gone through that denial and anger and bargaining and depression, and then maybe accepted it because that's what grief is and that's how it happens. So foster children have a lot of that to go through. And that then builds up the fact that they may be resistant to change. Many fostered or adopted children don't like transitions and change. So what do I mean by transitions? Well, for a foster child, it's probably going to a new home, a new bed, new smells, new food. But for an ordinary child, a transition really can be something very, very simple. It might just be moving from one task to another. Now, I don't know if, as parents, I know as a parent myself, I've certainly come across this, trying to get a child to stop doing something that you want them to stop doing, or to start doing something that you want them to start, and they don't want that, obviously. It's difficult. It's transitioning from one thing to another. You know, get your coat on to go out. You might find that causes a problem. And there are many autistic children or children who are very sensitive who still have those problems around transitions and change as well. And the way to work around that really is to be able to have rules and boundaries in place, to have a structure in place where they feel comfortable. Because things like going on holiday for a foster child, or I think probably the most classic one is meltdown in a supermarket, where as a foster parent or an adoptive parent, if your child really kicks off and you're standing there, that's bad enough, but when everybody else is looking at you like you're the worst parent in the world, that's really hard to take. And it's probably nothing you've done. And that can happen with ordinary parents too. But having those rules, routines and boundaries in place gives them a structure, and it's making them feel safe. So when they're going through transitions or change, they may be coming out of that safety zone a little, and that might be what's making them feel uncomfortable. So it's just a case of talking through their emotions and helping and supporting them. Another thing that many, many foster children have is a lack of resilience. Now, resilience, children aren't born with resilience. We know that they aren't born with it. They have to develop it. They have to learn it. And it doesn't happen when they're very young. So it may be that they're 7, 8, 9, 10 before they start to learn resilience. Let me tell you what children who are resilient are good at. So they're very good, if they have resilience, at managing their emotions. They're very good at problem solving, and they're very good at coping in situations where there's adversity or problems. So they're quite confident and they can be quite responsible. They're also very good at building relationships and friendships. So then, on the other hand, children who aren't resilient just aren't very good at any of that. And so then perhaps, because hopefully we've developed empathy, we will then be able to realise that the reasons why they are like they are, and be able to help them to build, because all this really stems from their lack of resilience and empathy. And that is what Ollie is all about, helping children to build that resilience and empathy. Excuse me. And then on top of everything, what we then find with children who've had a very bad start in life is there's guilt and shame. Now again, in order for a child to feel guilt, they have to be able to understand empathy. And until they can, they don't feel guilt. What they feel is shame. And shame is actually a really natural part of growing up. Every single toddler feels shame when you tell them off. And that is because they haven't yet realised that it's not shame, it's actually something completely different, because they haven't got empathy. So it's normal for them to feel it. They need to feel it in order to develop the empathy. But the difference between feelings of shame and feelings of guilt are that the person who feels shame thinks that they are a bad person. And a person who has developed empathy and resilience and can feel guilt will actually know that they've done something bad, but it doesn't make them a bad person. And that's very in tune with the Ollie model, is that they might have behaviour that's bad, but it doesn't make them bad. It's just part of them. And when children feel shame and they feel that they are bad, they don't feel loved. They don't feel wanted. They're not very good at making friends because they haven't got resilience. And so therefore they think nobody wants them. And that just compounds their feelings of shame. And what we need to do then is to help them to build that resilience so that they become more self-confident and so that they can understand that it's not who they are, but what they've done, and they can put that right. And then that will actually stop them getting lots of problems later on in life. You know, children who continue to feel shame will actually maybe even go on to self-harm or get depression. They might go into risky behaviours or even perhaps mental illnesses and emotional problems into their adulthood. So resilience and empathy are absolutely key to everything for any child, but especially with fostered or adopted children. And so with all these problems here, with the lack of trust and their poor role models and what they're going through, how they're feeling and their feelings of shame, what does that all lead to? Well, the common theme that it leads to is challenging behaviour, because emotions lead to behaviour, whichever behaviour it is. And challenging behaviour is the only way that some of these children can actually become noticed and have their needs met. So it leads to behaviour. And because we have all been children, and if you watched the video earlier, you'll realise that the pathways in our brains have all been used and formed because of repetition of emotions and feelings that we've had throughout our lives, dependent on what's happened to us. Then because we have developed and our brain has developed, what do we do when our children go into meltdown? Well, it leads to, very often, to us taking things personally. And as parents or adults, if we take things personally, that can also lead to confrontation. And I think we all know that when it leads to those things, it doesn't work. And it doesn't work, it only makes things worse. Why? Well, Ali described it earlier. It's about fight or flight. And when we're in heightened emotion, our brain slips back into that survival mode. And the blood rushes away to help us run. the chemicals are released in our body that stop our thinking brains, our logical brains, from working. And children can't listen in heightened emotions. So reasoning with them is a waste of time. So standing in the supermarket when they're having a meltdown is you know, we can't do anything really, it's too late. So why does that happen? Well, all behaviour serves a purpose. All children really are looking for something to be done to help them, so a need they may have. So if they're looking to be able to sort out a problem, they very often can't come to you and say, oh dear, I've got a problem, so-and-so said something to me. And so what they do is they just act out, they just do whatever they can to get rid of that feeling, and it doesn't always. It doesn't work because they're not thinking straight. But there aren't any bad children. There just are children who are having challenging behaviours. And when children have problems, what we try and do is to identify what's causing it very often. And so therefore we might actually say, well, you're angry. And they may not be angry. It may be that they don't know what they're feeling, but it's not anger. So we shouldn't label their feelings for them. We should try and work out what their feelings are and help them get to the root of their feelings. And this is basically why I became an Ollie coach, because I needed to learn how to do that with children, because as a foster carer, I mean, some of the children's behaviours we see are off the scale, really. So if we understand the way that a child's brain develops, which is the video that I showed you earlier, then we can understand how important it is that we actually work with a child and help them to get their unmet needs met, so that they don't have loss of control or feel frustration or shame. And this is how Ollie coaching can help. And what I would like to do before I answer some more of your questions is just to explain that all behaviour serves a purpose. It's there for a reason, and we need to understand children's behaviour and try and find out what it is so that we can help them to work out and control their emotions. And there are lots of ways we can do that. And certainly Ollie coaching can help, and hopefully these parenting sessions will help as well. But all children go through the same process, whether they're fostered, adopted, or just at home because of COVID and worried about something, or having friendship issues. They behave in a certain way. So I do have another video, but I'm not going to play it because Annie's actually answered a lot of the questions that were in there, which is about how Ollie coaches help children. So I'm not going to play this one. But what I am going to do is I'm going to actually open up the floor for any questions on what you might have around maybe fostering, adoption, or behaviour. And Allie's here, and there are other coaches here to help as well, because it can be a minefield. It can be very difficult to work with children. But the most important thing is that we try and listen to what they're saying. We try and not jump ahead and read too much into it. And Annie described this superbly earlier with her demonstration, and really just try very, very hard to meet the child at their level and help them to be able to understand that they can do something about this. They can change their emotions, and they can use their superpowers to actually help. So I would like to say thank you, and I would like to ask if anybody has any questions. And I'm sure many of you do, whether it's from what I've talked about or from what Alice talked about earlier. So we'll get rid of this now, stop my screen sharing. Because children are very resilient. They really are very resilient, but we have to be resilient and aware too. So I hope that's helped. I know we haven't got a lot of time left, so I've tried to pare it down a little bit for you. But if you have any questions, please feel free to pop it in the chat box or whatever.
Before we pile in with questions, I have a question, because at the moment you guys are sending in emails and saying, well, we don't know what to do about this, don't know what to do about that. And we have to be eloquently vague in answering them because we don't know enough, which is why I just gave out the email so I can put you in touch with an Ollie coach. Would it be helpful for you guys if I do an online parent, well, we used to do a face-to-face parenting program, teaching you some simple language, simple techniques. Would it be helpful if we did that? So we actually gave you some techniques that you could go away and use, and put a Q&A in there, obviously, so that you can say, oh, how do we do that? Did that work? Did this work? Because we can do that online with you guys, and we can get you practicing and playing. So if that's of interest, email us, let us know, and I'll happily do that. Because do you know what? This is a horrible bloody time. I became a therapist because I wanted to help people. I was not working with children. I don't have children. I didn't know anything about them. I've got thousands now. The guys that are Ollie coaches here, they're not, you know, they're not background in therapy. They're mums, they're dads, they're bus drivers, hairdressers, pharmacists. I've just found out, teachers. They're a lovely mix. They're you. But like me, they wanted to help kids, and that's what we do. So but the way that we do that is to teach you, not preach. So if that would be of use, I'm happy to do it in our next month one. So let Chick know.
I think, Ellie, that would be a really good idea. I was thinking that today, that we actually do a proper parenting session in terms of teaching some techniques, teaching bits and pieces as a, you know, this is what we do. Why not? You know, it's something that we can do.
Then. Put a date in your diary, guys. We'll do that, and we'll teach you some really cool stuff. So that I don't want kids in therapy. I hate it, and I'm sorry if we've got any therapists on here from other backgrounds, but I'm a bit outspoken, and if you didn't know that, you will. I hate that it takes 6 months, 7 months, I'm in Cambridgeshire, for someone to see a therapist here because of the waiting list. I hate that. I hate that an awful lot of therapy, not all of it, there's some bloody good therapies out there other than Ollie, doesn't empower people, it fixes them, which means when they're broken, they've got to come back. I hate that. I hate labels and boxes. I truly believe that if I can learn this stuff, anyone can. And I think mums and dads should be doing this with their kids from the off. Just imagine that world. Imagine 4, 5, 6-year-olds that get emotional resilience, who can make friendships, who can banter, who can take it, who can make a decision whether or not they're going to join a bloody gang or be in the in crowd, or they're going to talk to a stranger because they're nice to them. Imagine that world. Look what's going on around us right now. Imagine if our kids decided if they liked you because you're a nice person, not because of your colour, your religion, your race. Imagine that world. Because we're making it a bloody reality. Kids don't. They're not born with any hate or prejudice. They're learning it. But if we gave them that resilience, that's what I'm about. That's what Ollie Coaching's about. So, yeah, I'm happy to do an online one for you guys so that you can make sure your kids are in a damn good place. And you know the lovely thing about Ollie Coaching, it's not really for kids. So while I'm teaching you how to work with your kids, you might just have a few penny drops yourself that will make life easier for you.
Okay, so I don't think we've got any other questions coming through on the chat. If anyone has any other questions, just unmute yourself, ask any of the Ollie coaches, or if any of the Ollie coaches want to add any comments or anything like that, please unmute and go for it. And then we will look to close within the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, I just have a question. I was reading about kind of the different ages that children's brain develops and how they think in black and white, maybe up until the age of 7 and 8. They don't really, they can't rationalise as much as older children. I was just wondering, is that different in boys and girls? Has there been anybody know of any research that's happened?
There's probably tons and tons and tons. So all I can do is give you an Ollie answer to that. When we're training coaches and we do a specific section on child growth and all that, there are numerous different schools of thought on this. So some schools will say, oh, definitely the girls are miles ahead. No, the boys are miles ahead. No, the girls are. Do you know what? I think that's one of the problems with how we're bringing our kids up at the moment. We're looking at bloody tick boxes from people that really don't know because they don't know your child. So my answer to that question is absolutely, but maybe not.
Yeah, there's some research going on here at the moment, and it's why our teenage boys achieving less than teenage girls in certain difficult areas. So they're putting them into boxes of their area if they're disadvantaged area. Then they're putting them into the boy box, and I'm thinking, you know?
Well, do you know, I'd be happy with that if they do one on gay people, because you know, the gay boy's going to do better than the gay girls, or do you know, it's nature and nurture. And I think if, like me, I came from a background where I live in a place called St Neots in Cambridgeshire, and there's a bridge either end. Now, you lot are too young, but there's a film called Brigadoon, and in this film, once every 100 years, the bridge appears and you can escape. Otherwise, you work at one of the local factories for the rest of your damn life. And that was me, but I got out within that 100 years, and I got so much grief for that, because who the hell do I think I am? You know, you should only be doing this, you should only be doing that, because boxes and labels. I don't think anyone knows what they can do till they give it a go. And I think one of the biggest issues we've got is these damn boxes and labels. You're from here, you can't, rubbish. Hell, do you know, I can't read and write. I've written books, and I'm as proud as shit to see all these red shirts on here because they're amazing coaches. I've trained these guys. So don't, you know.
Yeah, I don't agree with it either. I think it's nonsense.
We need to get you in a red shirt then, Kathy.
She's getting there, Ollie.
Go!
Kathy, just to add as well, I know that Carol Dweck has done, like, her book Mindset blew my mind, because she has done extensive research into underprivileged areas versus privileged areas. And she has proven that in investing one-to-one and asking and meeting students' needs, that you can prove it's down to mindset, not circumstance, and it's irrelevant of boy, girl, or anything like that. This is the book here, Mindset, it's backwards, but Dr. Carol Dweck, Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, and she actually speaks into how, in focusing on mindset and next time thinking, you can make a child or a teenager feel not stupid, so that they will be willing to try again, rather than accepting a label of, you need to go into this box. And I just think that out of everything that I've read and the research that I've looked up, as part of the extensive essay writing that I've had to do to become an Ollie coach,
come on.
that was one of the best books that I've read.
Thank you. Great. Thanks, Sonia. It's brilliant.
Okay, any other questions from anyone? Okay, I think we'll call that a day. So thank you very much, Ollie.
Right.
Wherever you are. Thank you for everyone who is attending. As I said, the recording will be put up on our YouTube channel in the next few days, week, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye.
Take care, everyone. See you soon.